Hello, Fulvio. How are you today?
Fine, thank you, Serafino.
As you know, we have been doing in UNCTAD for many years now an analysis of the utilization rate, and recently we have set up a web application that allows people to look at the GSP utilization rate in the case of the Quad countries. That is for the major markets for the least developed countries among the developed countries. We have also seen during this roundtable that some countries like Belgium and Switzerland have some surveys with traders, importers or exporters on the use of preferential access. Why we don't have that in Italy for the time being?
First of all, your website is really very interesting and I think useful for enterprises, for researchers, and also for governments and customs authorities. In Italy, we don't have this kind of research, surveys, or data because I think they need to be more deep, more exact, and more rich data to be really useful. For example, in Italy, we are a world of small and medium enterprises, so the utilization rate of preferential origin is very difficult to measure because we need to speak with firms to understand what are the issues related to preferential origin, but also to understand if they can use these possibilities and if it is really advantageous for them. And so we think that it could be useful in Italy to have a very deep analysis on a survey rich of data and also have a dialogue through TAXUD of the European Union or also the Italian Customs Authority to have data richer and so really effective for analysis with effective consequence on the economy and the choice of the enterprises.
I see, but what are the elements in your opinion that really do not allow what we have for the moment to be significant?
Now, the most important things are related to the issues related to contract, to logistic issues, to the emotional factors related in the international trade. And the fact that we very often don't use the preferential treatments in other countries because we don't have enough information about it. But a survey could help to understand also if the enterprises know these issues or not, because this is the most important problem. I remember Italy is full of small and medium enterprises. It's very different from other countries. So I think that a complete survey and a complete analysis, it's very difficult to perform. This is the main issue.
So to raise awareness is probably one element, in your opinion, that should be to be taken into account, in a sense, before moving towards an analysis of the utilization rate.
Of course, because an analysis of utilization rate could help to understand the level of awareness that we must raise up. But without an alert on awareness, it could be very difficult to have information from the enterprises because they couldn't understand why we are asking for some information, if there is something difficult that they have not considered before, and so on. It's a difficult dialogue between enterprises and the organization of enterprises. In my job, I work with the Association of Enterprises, and we see that the most part of the firms are really small. 3 persons inside, 10 persons, 15 persons, and very often no more than 20 people involved in production, involved in administration, management of the enterprise. So you can understand why it's difficult to raise awareness in these conditions.
Yeah, I see that. Any other reason, in your opinion, that could be justifying the survey? in addition to check on the awareness and what kind of other elements you would like to see from a survey of that type?
The most important information that we could have from a survey is, first of all, a model to compare the effect of the agreements in the Italian enterprises. So why we do prefer to exchange, to have trade with some countries or other countries, and if it's related in some ways to the preferential treatment or not. And other element is related to the fact that sometimes the so-called Incoterms could determine the way an enterprises approach the international trade. For example, when you have an ex-works condition, an Incoterms, to sell the goods, so your customer in another country could ask you for a proof of origin, but you don't understand why he wants this proof of origin. And when you are selling, for example, DDP, when you pay duty and all other costs, you could not be informed about the fact that there is a preferential treatment. And as we have we have discussed before in other situations during our dialogues, sometimes it's burdensome for the international forwarder or customs broker to take under their responsibility the difficulty to manage the proof of origins.
For sure, raising awareness is an important element. Which other elements you would consider that are important to be analyzed or the information should be sought after in the survey of companies?
Mainly to understand why people don't use the preferential treatment. And one of the reason is related, as we discussed before in these days, to the burdensome of preferential treatment, to the necessity to use a proof of origin that sometimes is very difficult to manage, and sometimes people prefer to pay duty instead of using a complicated proof of origin and to afford the control by customs and the possibility that customs arrive to your customer or to you in the following years. So it's much better to pay duty. And this is true when the duty are very, very low. All over the world we have a lot of agreements, but sometimes the duty are really low. They are 2%, 2.5%. So why? You should take the duty to use a preferential treatment.
So, in a sense, you're saying that it may be that if you have an inspection, you may run the risk of having fines that are much higher than what you would have paid, and so you prefer to avoid the risk.
This is the first thing, but also without an inspection, you must know, but you know, that it's possible for customs authority to check the preferential treatment for 3 years after the customs declaration. And so the customs clearance does not finish in that moment, but it can go on with consequence by the side of the exporter on your customer, because in the possibility that the proof of origin was not true, the consequences are that in the country of your customer, he will pay, he will be persecuted also as a criminal. So it's very, very, of course, risky and burdensome. And if you are an importer, it's the same thing, because you could receive a proof of origin and after 2 years, customs can verify that it's not true, because it's based on false declaration by your supplier, and you don't know exactly what your supplier has done. But then customs can write to you and ask for duties and ask for penalties. And this is a reason, because we don't use so much the preferential treatment, when the duties are low, of course.
And maybe also sometimes when these are in small and medium enterprises, sometimes the operations are not done on a regular basis. Probably you don't have a good knowledge of your customers.
Yes, also because when you don't use a regular basis, except for Canada, which use the statement on origin, or Japan, or Korea, which want the statement on origin on the invoice, in the other case, you should use a certificate of origin, the EU1 certificate of origin. And when you don't have the preferential treatment on a regular basis, when you don't exchange goods on a regular basis. But I must underline that people use the preferential treatment, use to request a certificate of origin or one, or they ask to be registered in the register of exporters. But they don't know exactly why they are doing this, because someone told them you must register in the REX, you must use the approved exporter simplification, you must ask for a certificate, an A1 certificate. And this is a complication, because sometimes you could see what are the risks inside, sometimes you don't see them, but you encounter them in the development of your work. So this is the importance of the survey. With the survey you can inform the operators, the economic operators. They could see that there is a preferential treatment, yes, but there are some conditions. And what are the variables in the play? So they can make a more accurate evaluation of this and not go straight to the preferential treatment because it's fine, it's a good thing, and we are all happy with Canada or Japan and so on.
Thank you.